So we'll say hi to the folks on YouTube. Yay! Hi YouTube folks, and hi to everybody on Gather. Yay! We love it. Everybody here. I'm like, oh, we got a good group going. This is good. All my handsome men and non-binaries and my ladies and I love y'all. You're great. So I decided to talk. It was interesting. Most of you know, I do the scheduling for the Sunday services for speakers. And Reverend Tony was like, do not put me the Sunday before conference. It's too busy. And I said, oh, that's easy. I'll just put me in. And then like Friday or Thursday, I went, oh crap, I'm speaking Sunday. It has been busy. I mean, it's just been lots going on. But we are excited about the conference. Now, I found out the advantage of speaking the week before the conference is you can kind of cheat and just go, I'll do the same theme as the conference. So when I did my blurb on Thursday, I think it was, I had no clue what I was talking about, but I used the conference theme. And that's why I'm all conference theme. Reverend Tony's looking all handsome. He needs to come up here really quickly. Reverend Tony, come show the YouTubers, because they can't see you back there.
Oh, okay.
We gotta get, this is the beautiful Reverend Tony in the red conference outfit. Woo! I'm in the blue, so we'll be mostly blue this year.
Right.
With
as long as
my
it's
little...
not black, then we'd be black and blue. That would be.
No, black and blue would be bad. So I want to talk about...
I was going to say, some people like that.
Yeah, some people may like that, yeah. There's certain people who aren't here today who would be like, man, black and blue is awesome. So the topic, or the theme this year is Love Makes No Exceptions. That's the theme for the conference. Love makes no exceptions. And I think a lot of times, and I'm reading through the blurbs because I get to see all the conference blurbs from all the presenters beforehand. A lot of the presentation is about let's not exclude others. Let's extend our love to others. Let's not have separation because we got to extend that love. And I've talked about this before. First of all, I'm just going to say, and I'm going to say it in passing and then move on. Extending love to others doesn't mean you have to have them for coffee. Okay? Because I've had people who said, like, I've talked about this openly. My sister has chosen to come contact with me. And honestly, I feel like if she came back and said, hey, I want to get together, it wouldn't be like, I wouldn't be like, oh, great, let's go out for Christmas. Because that's not the guidance I've gotten. I feel like, my experience with her has just said, step back a little. Let's see how things fly. And it was interesting, I'm teaching an ACIM 1 class, or leading the ACIM 1 class, and I would say, I think out of like 8 students, like 6 or 7 of us are divorced. It's a real high population of divorcees. And there's one that's going through it right now, and so we've been having a lot of discussions about like how do you interact with your exes. And it was interesting, a couple weeks ago we read this reading, and it says, miracles are examples of right thinking. It's in chapter 1. Reality contact at all levels becomes strong and accurate, thus permitting correct delineation of intra and interpersonal boundaries. As a result, the doer's perceptions are aligned with truth as God created it. And I found that interesting because we had that discussion. We've been having a lot of discussions of when you extend love, does that mean there's no boundaries? Do you just keep giving to the person? And it was interesting because we ran across that and we're like, the Course says have boundaries. But it's the ones that are aligned with what God wants for you. So I've noticed though, like I said, a lot of the talks at the conference are about interpersonal relationships. I really feel like part of my ministry and what I've been called to share with others is not only extending the love to others, but extending your love to yourself. And the reason I feel like that's something I've been called to share is because it's something I've had to go through a lot to learn. And so I want to share with you just a couple of examples of what really got me to where I am now, and then talk to you a little bit about, kind of it came to me actually in the middle of the night last night, the idea of when do you say yes and when do you say no. And I think that's a real important thing in extending love, not only to others, but to extend love inward also, that interpersonal boundary. What are you doing with it? So like I said, I'll say my whole life, I have been a people pleaser. I'm a people pleaser. I was raised in a family with a restaurant where it was, the customer's always right. Yeah, that's how I was raised. I didn't realize how much that had infiltrated my thinking until I was married. And I had been married for several years, and I wasn't happy, but I was like, well, things ain't going right in the marriage, things happen. And then my spouse became a long-term or long-haul truck driver. And the schedule he was on was 28 days away, 2 days home.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Steve just said, oh shit. Yeah, exactly. It was no shit. It was 28 days away, 2 days home.
Crazy.
Yeah. So the 2 days that he was home was basically run to Costco, stock him up on his Jelly Belly, stock him up on his chocolates, get his bottles of water for his truck, do his laundry, and then he'd be gone again.
Wow.
And all the in-laws in particular said to me, oh my gosh, you must miss your husband. You must be so lonely. You must be so depressed. And I realized also that was the moment where I went, oh crap, this is not a good place in my marriage. Because I thought, actually, I'm really happy the 28 days he's not here. I went, oh shit. As Steve said, we'll quote Steve's today. I'll blame him for the swearing. I realized I was happier when he wasn't there, because here was the difference. I had control of my finances when he wasn't there, which when he was home, I didn't. He monitored all the money. So when I said, oh gee, my pants, I need a new pair of pants, I went and got a new pair of pants. When I said, you know what, I'm not really in the mood for Mexican tonight, I'm gonna go for Italian, I went for Italian. Whereas none of that happened when he was home, because I constantly gave in to whatever he wanted. Whatever he said, whatever he wanted, we did, absolutely to the exclusion of anything I wanted, no matter how bad it was. And so there was that moment in my life where I said, oh my gosh, I need to start taking care of myself. And I kind of in my mind said there's one more limit, and he crossed the limit, and that was that. That was when I filed for divorce. It was literally, I think I read, I forgot what I did. I got in my checking account. By the way, the password had been changed. I got back into the checking account, saw some transactions, and literally instantly said, we're done. That was it. Because I knew at that point, I was like, no matter what I do, I'm not getting taken care of here. So that was kind of the first one. And then I started going into like, okay, I got to better myself. And so, I've told all of you this story. I ended up hiring a personal trainer who became my spiritual teacher, started working with them at the church, and I found myself doing a lot of the same things. Because this person was somebody I trusted. So it was like, oh, you want to take vacation? Okay, go ahead, take vacation. But on the days I need to take off, we have an event scheduled, so I'll cancel my time off. I want to be teaching a class. Well, you said I'm not ready to teach a class, so I won't. I just started sacrificing everything I felt led to do. And so I ended up spinning when that whole thing blew up. And it was interesting because when it blew up, I said, what did I do wrong?
Right.
What did I do wrong? Why did this person kick me out of their life when I did everything they asked? And yet I blamed myself. And so I spent 3 months up in the mountains, and I just want to share with you a whole bunch of the books I read. Sorry, I just lost them. I read Soul Shifts by Barbara DeAngelis. These were like my top ones. The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I Need Your Love, Is That True by Byron Katie. Which I'll say to you, when you read that, it sounds like it's about relationships. And then after like the second chapter, she goes, there is no relationship, it's all about you. Figure out what's going on in you. And then the fun one I read was called Madly in Love with Me. And ironically, I'm in a place where the nearest market's an hour away, and they had that book on sale. So I picked it up, and those were kind of like my moment of like, okay, I need to start transforming not only how I'm thinking about myself, but how I'm actually applying these things. That I can't have love extended outward, but I exclude myself from it. Can't exclude yourself from that love. And so now, it's been interesting. I've been here at the CMC for 2 years. I've been doing a lot of healing work, and I love working with Reverend Tony. And it's become really obvious to me, as most of you know, that I don't feel like I'm supposed to stay in San Francisco. And I know some people are just blown with the concept that somebody doesn't love living in San Francisco, but it's not my town. And it's really become obvious to me for that. And so part of my journey of deciding to leave was to say, is this a loving choice? Not only for the people outward, but if I was to stay in San Francisco, am I excluding myself from love? putting myself in a situation where I haven't been healthy, putting myself in a situation where I just don't feel right. It just doesn't feel right to me. I don't know how to explain that. And so I've been going through a lot of that. So the course, and this is coming from the reading, that Reverend Peter did such an awesome job reading, says, love is incapable of any exceptions. Fear does not gladden, healing does. Fear always makes exceptions. Healing never does. Fear produces dissociation because it induces separation. Healing always produces harmony because it proceeds from integration. And I noticed, it was interesting when I first read this, I kind of scanned over it, and then I realized, what's the little red alarms in there? It's the feelings, it's the emotions. When are you in fear, you're not glad. When are you going to be happy? When there's healing. And so I started looking at emotions. I've really felt this over the last few years. Emotions aren't good or bad. And I've struggled with that because I've had people say to me like, oh, you shouldn't cry. You're being manipulative if you cry. And I'm like, maybe I'm just sad. Maybe I'm just having a bad day. And so I've moved on to say, you know what, healing, it's okay to have emotions. Ironically, the person who told me don't cry was the person who told me emotions are neutral. You know how life goes. It never quite matches what you say. But I kind of decided, I said, emotions are like little signposts. They show you where to go. They show you what to look at. Now, the option you have is whether you follow those signposts and things can go easier. Or you can resist the signposts and go a different way. You know, the Course says, there is a plan behind appearances which does not change. The script is written. Now, some people feel like the script is written almost as like we're like little robots going around doing what the script says. I don't quite go with that. And I've shared this, I think, with some of you before. For me, it's like that Super Mario Brothers game. And you know, this little Super Mario guy, he's running along and he's bouncing up and down. And no matter what you do with that little Super Mario guy, what happens? It just keeps scrolling. But what happens? When you have the good emotions, you're bouncing up in the clouds. If you're having a bad emotion, what did you do? You went down one of the pipes. And so the script is written in terms of eternity is, still there. This is all an illusion. This is all a dream. But how we experience it is guided by our emotions and guided whether we follow, do we follow that guidance we've got? And do we have fun? Or do we go into the underworld and play down there? Neither's wrong, but you're going to have a lot harder time getting through if you're beating up the little monsters underground versus flying with wings, right? So I say to myself, how does this feel? How is this going? And there's some people say, well, what should I do? Should I not help people? Should I just tell people no all the time? Or should I just, what do I do? And I'd say there's no set standard. Sometimes you'll say yes, sometimes you'll say no. And it could be the exact same situation, just at different times, that you end up giving a different answer. Sometimes saying yes feels good. I like to go over, like Thanksgiving dinner. I got to go over and make pumpkin pies with Reverend Tony. I was a little bit tired. We were both a little bit tired. We had some challenges of putting salt instead of sugar. Things like that. Oops. That was mine, I will admit. But it felt good because what? It was a moment of joining. It was a moment of unity. It allowed us to release the separation. And it says, how do you know who's a teacher of God? It says his qualifications consist solely in this. Somewhere he's made a deliberate choice in which he did not see his interests apart from someone else's. So sometimes the best thing you can do, the most healing thing you can do, the most loving thing you can do is say, yes, let me join with you. Let's do this together. And sometimes we need to say no. It says, you who believe that sacrifice is love must learn that sacrifice is separation from love. As long as you perceive the body as your reality, so long will you perceive yourself as lonely and deprived. And so long will you also perceive yourself as a victim of sacrifice. If you just say to somebody like, oh yeah, I'll do it, and then in your mind, you're thinking, my gosh, I'm so tired. They always ask for stuff. I don't want to do it. You're doing maybe the same exact thing, except for what? Your mind is now in sacrifice. Your mind is saying, I don't want to be here. And even though you're doing the same thing, you're not joining with that person. You're separating yourself.
Right.
And so it can be the same. Now the question is when that happens, realize that you've now sacrificed yourself. You've sacrificed your peace. You've sacrificed your happiness. You haven't extended love to them. You've extended a guilt trip to them. You haven't extended love to them. You've extended well, I helped you, so now when are you going to help me? That isn't the love. Sometimes we have to do it. Say, you know what, the most loving thing I can do is say no. And I'll say, it's an art. I have found it's an art to say no. Sometimes it's a matter of just saying no and not going into your reasons, not going into your story. Reverend Peter, I can't go out tonight, I'm sorry. That's it. I don't have to give him some story and lie to him. I can't go tonight. There's a sense of when you can say no, and it's loving. Would you want your friend to be miserable with you? No. So guess what? Your friend doesn't want you to be miserable with them either. And because it's not about them, you're not rejecting them. You're saying, I love you, I wish you the best. And I know, or I believe that the best of this moment is for me not to participate. It's not personal. It's just the best thing for me right now is to step back. And so we can do that, and we have to, when we do that, allow the person to have their experience. It says, no teacher of God should feel disappointed. He has offered healing, and it does not appear to have been received. It is not the function of God's teachers to evaluate the outcome of their gifts. It is merely their function to give them. No one can give if he is concerned with the result of the giving. I know in some instances that it's not healthy for me to go out and do certain things. Yeah, some people think I'm kind of a freak. I live almost a monastic lifestyle. Like when I leave from home, leave work, I go home. I don't go out and party. I don't go out late at night. And there's times when people say, oh, go out with us. We're leaving at like 9:30 at night. And I'm like, God bless you, and no. And you know what? That's my gift to them. Of saying, I love you, and I'm going to free you up to have the fun you want without dragging along somebody who's going to be tired and grumpy because it's 10:30 at night and way past my bedtime. And guess what? They can choose to accept that. And I'm extending it to them with love. I'm extending it to them with all the care that I can. And if they choose to be pissed off because I didn't sacrifice myself, that's their choice. And I have to allow them to have that experience. Knowing that my gift that I've given them of I'm expressing love, whether it brings healing to you now or healing to you in 5 years, I trust that we are healing together, whatever that looks like. And so the last paragraph of today's reading says the unhealed healer wants gratitude from his brothers, but he is not grateful to them. This is because he thinks he is giving something to them and is not receiving something equally desirable in return. Learning is constant and so vital in its power for change that a son of God can recognize his power in one instant and change the world in the next. That is because by changing his mind, he has changed the most powerful device that was ever created for change. And so I think at the end of this portion, it starts off with saying, love makes no exceptions. And then it says, be grateful for your brothers. Maybe even if they do things you don't like. Be grateful, give to them, not necessarily expecting them to give back. See them as your own. Be willing to learn and be willing to change. And wherever that leads you, I know that it's going to be blessed. So thank you very much. That is my talk for today.
Nice.